Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and the first thing I want to do to start off the conversation is to give my condolences to the members of the Mount Zion AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. You may know by now that this church was burned down to the ground in the last couple of days, and it's absolutely tragic. Because not only does this kind of thing just strike fear in the hearts of so many people and lead us to so many concerns about where race and race relations have gotten in the United States. But this is the second time this church was burned to the ground. It was burned to the ground 20 years ago, and actually this week was very close to the anniversary of the date where the church was burned down the first time. So it's hard not to speculate that there might have been a reason that this particular time was chosen to burn down the church, not just because it's the anniversary, but also because the racial tensions across the United States have been pretty high. As many of you might also know, this is the seventh black church to have been burned down in the last 10 days. At least half of those churches that have been burned down have been determined to be clear cases of arson. The other cases, they're still under investigation, but I wouldn't be surprised if most, if not all of them, were the result of arson. Now, with that being said, here's what I'm thinking here. Here's what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing right now is that the United States is starting to show actual physical effects of something that's been there psychologically for a while, which is that we're as divided right now as a country as we were during the Civil War. And as you know, in the Civil War, hundreds of thousands of Americans died because there was so much division. People were killing each other over what they believed in, and it just got incredibly ugly. And I don't want to go back to a time like that, but it's getting pretty nerve-wracking in the sense that that things are starting to happen that we didn't expect. That shooting by Dylan Roof in the Emmanuel AME Church, I think that really took people over the top in terms of what they know could be possible. And the fact is that even worse could be possible. I mean, someone could literally launch a terrorist attack on some element of the black community or on black churches or something like that. Personally, I believe that the black church has been the target of these attacks for a couple of reasons. One, the black church is kind of it's one of the strongest and most respected institutions in the black community. It's a huge economic powerhouse, social gathering spot, as well as a spiritual connector for many millions of black people all across the country. The black churches get attacked for the same reason that terrorists attacked the World Trade Center. They wanted to attack symbols of American economic dominance, and so the church is a symbol of so many things for so many people, and so it kind of makes sense that churches might be a target. But what's also true, and this is something that I think has to be reflected on as well, is that to some extent churches were targeted because I think there's a reputation within the church, within members of the church, for being very passive, very peaceful, very forgiving, no matter what heinous, horrible thing that you do. Sometimes it really concerns me when the first thing I hear is "I forgive you." It doesn't mean that you can't come to terms with eventually forgiving Dylan Roof for coming in and slaughtering 9 people, but forgiveness should not be the first thing that comes out of your mouth. That you have to be trained to think that way. That's not normal. Humans don't think that way on an instinctual level. If you look at other mammals who operate on the same instinctual brain that we operate on, forgiveness is not the first thing that happens when you attack their children and their loved ones and things like that. So we've got to really reflect on that and what that really says about us. And because I have no doubt that Dylan Roof attacked that target because it was a soft target. It was a place we are known for being a community in general that doesn't protect itself. We don't fight back for our loved ones. And one good example you can think of, or that we can lay on the table right now, is the way the Hispanic community reacted to Donald Trump's remarks about Mexican immigrants. And how they pressured NBC to drop his show and to drop their partnership with him on the Miss America pageant. I mean, it was quick, really quick, and very powerful, very impactful. The question is, could African Americans have put that same pressure on NBC? We don't know. There were no You didn't see Hispanic people on Fox News defending any ignorant racist thing that Trump said. But when it comes to the black community, you literally, even after black people were slaughtered in that church, you had Negroes on Fox News defending racists, basically blaming the slaughter on black people, as if we pulled the trigger and killed Dylan Roof. I mean, that's the kind of ridiculousness that we have in our community that ultimately can make us very vulnerable. Now, moving on, a couple of things I want to kind of jump into is that, I think that when you're talking about what's happening right now, I agree with Cornel West. Cornel West recently said that these racial divides are a threat to national security. And they're a threat to national security because you really do have a severe risk of major, major social instability. And a lot of it is even threatened on an even greater scale by virtue of the fact that we have politicians that don't have the political will or the courage or the understanding to really initiate meaningful racial healing. They would rather let the same problems fester. They still want to leave the black community out to die. They abandon us economically. We have entire communities that have been just left behind, where we have a whole generation of children who grew up with parents who were either incarcerated in the drug war or died or were addicted to drugs that the CIA allowed into black communities during the 1980s. So effectively, you have politicians that just really do stupid things. I mean, they are incredibly un-American, if you will, in the sense that they're supporting and implementing policies that ultimately will destroy this country. We cannot survive as a nation when we're letting our most valuable resources, I'm talking about poor kids from the hood, we're letting them just languish. We're throwing them out into the street. We're not educating them properly. We're incarcerating them at an early age. We're doing all kinds of things. And then if that didn't happen, they at least get medicated to the point where they have a hard time being productive members of society in many cases. So, when you grow up, you're medicated, uneducated, incarcerated. Your chances of being a productive member of society are impacted greatly. I'm not going to say slim to none, but I will say slim to none. Now, the last thing I'll just say on this is, I can say as a black man, one of the things that this whole issue makes me think about is, just the ridiculous joke back in '08 when Obama got elected, and how we somehow believed that we had a post-racial society. I thought it was amazing how it literally took about 6 months for the country to stop using that stupid term. I think that dork on MSNBC, I don't mean to say nasty words like that, but that guy on MSNBC, Toure, had written some book about America being post-racial, and I said, man, this is stupid. It only appears post-racial because you're sweeping racism under the rug. You think that the election of one man is going to eliminate 400 years of racial problems. You're out of your mind. And so effectively, because we've only addressed the issue from a cosmetic standpoint, we're now dealing with a lot of the major fallout. Right now, what I'm really seeing is among the white community, I'm seeing whites, some whites who are truly supportive of the idea of racial healing, but they're kind of in the minority because many whites don't understand that they are indoctrinated into a white supremacist line of thinking at a very early age. Many black people are indoctrinated into a white supremacist line of thinking at a very early age. So many people who support racism don't even realize they're supporting it, because the most dangerous form of racism is institutional racism. That's where whites control media, they control the criminal justice system, they control the educational system, they control the universities, they control everything. And so it's very difficult for us as black people to get opportunities in those systems, especially when those who control those systems have been given a biased impression of who we are as people. So when you're the black man who goes to the top university and works his butt off, you're still not as likely to get certain jobs as a white guy with far fewer credentials than you have. So what it does is it pushes black people. We're marginalized to the point that we are in a position where the only logical response for us at this point is to unbrainwash as many of us as we can so we can develop our own economic systems. And that's what Financial Juneteenth is all about. That's what the Black Wealth Boot Camp and things like that are all about, is that I'm looking at this system and saying we can't survive in this system, not the way it is right now. The masses of us will never survive in this system. So you've got millions of whites who support white supremacy because they don't even realize that they're supporting it. And then you've got those extreme whites who are just angry and bitter and feel that every single thing that we get out of this society is somehow being taken away from them, and some of those white men carry guns. In fact, it's deep in the white culture to carry a gun. Even whites who don't want to kill anybody carry guns, and that creates a dangerous scenario because the United States is not serious about gun control. They're not trying to get the guns out of the hands of these people because they'll shoot back, and so effectively the only option we have at that point is to get guns of our own, unless we want to sit around like sitting ducks thinking that we're going to pray away every bullet that comes at us. And I don't think that's a good strategy. In fact, I remember reading a story about a Native American tribe where they were about to fight U.S. soldiers that were trying to take their land, and they had these spiritual leaders who convinced them that by wearing a certain vest, a certain shirt, it wasn't even a vest, it was just a shirt, that that the spirits, the guides, would block the bullets from their bodies. And so they all went out to battle. The white man shows up with guns. They showed up with these shirts because their preachers had told them that these shirts were going to protect them from the bullets. Well, you can guess what happened. They were slaughtered en masse, and they came in and took their land, and then they put their children in special schools to teach them how to be white, and punished them for being Native American, and rewarded them for assimilating, which is basically what happens to us right now. Our children are put into systems that are controlled by whites and basically rewarded for acting white, whatever that means, meaning assimilating into white culture, valuing what white people value, seeing everything white as kind of being better and superior, more intelligent, more attractive, all these things, and then things that are too black get punished, right? The interesting thing for us is that because we're so many generations into our brainwashing and our indoctrination, many of us don't even know what happens. I mean, many of us think that this is normal. We think it's normal for our oppressors to educate our children. We think it's normal for us to get an education so we can go beg a white man for a job. We think it's normal for Pookie and them down the street to go to prison because, of course, Pookie's a bad person because the white man told me he's a bad person. He's unredeemable. He's a horrible guy. He has no use in our community. And so as a result, we are effectively brainwashed. Many of us. I'm not just talking about uneducated people. I'm talking about highly educated people like me. In fact, education can sometimes be a greater deterrent to you having a liberated mind because your mind has been filled up with all the wrong stuff. You've been poisoned on a very deep and instinctual level to the point where because you're arrogant enough to think that you're truly educated, you're not even open to new ideas. And I know a lot of doctors, lawyers, professors, and stuff who are right in that category. And so, in fact, if you want to know more of my thoughts on this, I did write an article on financialjuneteenth.com called 27 Ways That Black People Are Brainwashed. And I encourage you to go take a look at it because literally I was going through this laundry list of all these things that we're taught to believe as children that ultimately lead us to a very bad place. Now, with that being said, the last thing I'll say is I send my condolences to the people at Mount Zion AME Church, as well as the people at Emmanuel, and as well as the folks at all the other churches that have been attacked. I encourage us as black people to really rethink our strategy. I don't think that praying and peacefulness and begging and forgiving instantly and all these other things, I don't think that positions us for battle. And that's the thing. I'm not saying that we got to go out guns blazing ready to kill people, because I really do believe you have to separate the white community. You can't think of it as just a purely black versus white issue. I see lots of whites who truly want to do the right thing, and I don't believe every white person wants to pick up a gun and walk into a church and murder black people. I don't believe that, and I don't buy into this, into very anti-white rhetoric that I might hear on the internet. I think that's very sloppy and it's not thoughtful. You have to be thoughtful, and you have to really be careful about how you kind of approach this. But at the same time, once your mind zones in on what you know you need to do, what you know needs to happen, you need to be steadfast and focused on that, and unwavering. To a point, in the sense that once we've kind of identified where the issues are, we have to be focused on excuse me, closing ranks and protecting our own, and that's it. We have to protect our own. I mean, if I'm running a church, I have armed guards at that church. I do whatever I can to prevent arson. I don't know how you can really stop arson. All the time it's kind of tough because they'll show up in the middle of the night and all that, but I'm sure there's technology out there to do that. I would protect the institutions for what they really are, and I would stop and I would get away from this tradition, this reputation of always being peaceful and loving toward those who are coming to kill you. It might be okay to forgive the person who's coming to kill you, but a man should never be okay with forgiving the person that's coming to kill his children. That's not acceptable. Your job as a man is when somebody's coming to kill your wife and kill your children, kill your mama, you pull out that gun and you blow his fucking brains out. Excuse my French. And that's all I gotta say. I'm done. I'm about to get on out of here because I said another cuss word and I keep saying I won't do that. But anyway, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. And by the way, we're starting our Black Wealth Boot Camp. The classes are filling up very quickly. I'm very happy about that. This is our first time doing this, but it's going to be some one-on-one interaction where we're going to talk about the foundation, the fundamentals of building wealth. I've been teaching about money for 20 years at many universities: Indiana University, University of Kentucky, Syracuse University, Ohio State University, etc. Now I'm bringing a lot of this knowledge and expertise with you, excuse me, to you, but stirring in some of that intellectual chocolate, if you want to call it that. I like that word. So anyway, if you want to join the Black Wealth Boot Camp and interact with me in this class, please go to theblackwealthbootcamp.com. That's theblackwealthbootcamp.com. It's not a free class, but it won't cost you more than a pair of Jordans. So come check it out. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World. Please take care. God bless. I'm gone. Peace.